This is Cenk Uygur. He's the founder of TYT, I believe. He's turning MAGA, sadly. David Pakman had a conversation with him. I want to listen to what they had to say to each other. So check this out.
It's great to welcome back to the show Cenk Uygur, host of the Young Turks, author of the book Justice is Coming. Cenk, I'm so glad to have an opportunity to just have you on and to talk directly with you. You know, last time we had you on, you were on with Destiny, and we talked about some of the things we're going to talk about today, but I just want to talk to you directly. I want to first just kind of explain my understanding of the controversy that's surrounding you. And if I get anything wrong, you tell me. This all kind of started with some tweets involving Don Jr. and Elon Musk. We talked about it, where you expressed willingness to work with whoever if you can accomplish the things that you believe are worth accomplishing. We talked a little bit about whether it's realistic or naive to think these people will help us do that, but that was sort of like part one. You appeared with Charlie Kirk at America Fest with Turning Point USA. We'll talk about the content of that. But you've also been criticized by some just for appearing there, like just that your presence there was the problem.
Bullshit. I don't know a single person who would have been upset by that. I don't believe it. I think Pakman is probably giving Cenk, he's doing some give and take. Like he's condemning the things that he did and then he's, forgiving the things that he did. It's a psychological technique that I'm fine with. I just don't believe that this is accurate as all.
Rather than your goals or being there. People are talking about a political 180 like Dave Rubin, which you've explained is not at all what this is. And then I've also seen in preparing for our talk today, some conversations you had with folks that I think you were previously well acquainted and friendly with that are seeming way less friendly right now for reasons we can talk about. And a lot of people that say they are on the left don't like what you're up to. Is that a fair?
Yeah, Pakman was wording this in a way that he thought that he could get Cenk to agree. And I respect that. That's fine with me. But it's not really representative of reality exactly. Pakman says he's being criticized by people who say they're on the left. These people are on the left. Like Emma Vigeland, for example, is on the left and is criticizing what Cenk and Anna are doing right now. It's going MAGA. But okay, like I said, it's kind of a Socratic reasoning thing, and it's going to destroy Pakman's ability to do it if he tips his hand too early. So I get it.
Assessment of kind of where we are right.
It's called street epistemology, and Pakman does street epistemology. I have championed street epistemology for a long time. I think it's a valuable way of getting people to come to true conclusions about things. Anthony Magnabosco, most famously, kind of pushes this. The creator is a Trump supporter now, unfortunately. He wasn't always, but Magnabosco is awesome. In the creator's stead, since the creator is a complete nutcase, what the hell is his name? Peter Boghossian. I think that's his name, Boghossian. Anyway, he created it, and he's going off in a weird direction. But Magnabosco's done a great job of kind of championing this rhetoric style, and Pakman follows it. In fact, Magnabosco's been on Pakman's channel before, so. And I've stood in for Magnabosco before. I mean, I'm good friends with Anthony Magnabosco. Interesting channel.
Reasons we can talk about. And a lot of people that say they are on the left don't like what you're up to. Is that a fair assessment of kind of where we are right now?
Yeah. I mean, the devil's in the details, and that's why we're having this conversation. But as a summary of where people think it stands, yeah, I think that's relatively right.
Here's my view after, knowing you for, I think 16 or years or something like that at this point, reviewing the appearance, reviewing everything you've said. I don't think there's any problem with going on right-wing shows or.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. It's what you do when you get there that's the problem. And Cenk very clearly sold out every principle that the left has ever stood for. It was an embarrassment. It was painful to watch. It was sad. And there's just no excuse for what he did. None.
For appearing at America Fest in principle. I think we should try to talk to the other side. My goal would be try to poach their audiences, try to expose Trump's not really the populist he claims to be or whatever. I think there's no issue there whatsoever.
David Pakman is clearly using deprogramming techniques on Cenk here. I covered this on my main channel. If you want more info on how it works, it's called street epistemology. But yeah, let's continue on. It's a clear as day example of it. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, let's continue.
Or whatever. I think there's no issue there whatsoever. If I were to just jump to my concern, it would be all the evidence to me points to these are obviously not good partners in the things we want to achieve. I'll give you an example. Of course, I want to cut military spending, Pentagon. You and I have talked about it. Why wouldn't we work with whoever wants to do that?
That's what started all of this. Cenk basically said he wants to work with Elon Musk. He even tweeted at Elon Musk and said, I want to work with you to cut the Pentagon spending. And Pakman is saying, totally agreed. Let's do it.
At the same time, no matter what shows up on Twitter, it's hard to imagine that Pete Hegseth, Elise Stefanik, Huckabee, and Mike Waltz are ever going to be involved in actually doing that. And so for me, it's more about how realistic is this thing? And is there a risk that your presence through no fault of your own is used simply to degrade the left with no real shot at improving anything? That's where I would place my concern, bearing in mind that I agree with a lot of what you're doing and what you're saying.
Yeah. So let me start by saying,
again, Pakman, what he's doing here, making sure Cenk's guard is down, making sure he knows I am on your side. I'm not adversarial to you. The moment Cenk's guard goes up, the moment he feels defensive, conversation over.
Acknowledging that I get why people are concerned. Like when you see a pattern, and we've seen Dave Rubin do it and others, Tulsi Gabbard do it, et cetera, and you see what appears to be the first step there, that your mind goes to the second, the third, and the 18th step. And so, like, if you're on the left and you're just see us doing this peripherally, or you hear it on a different show and they showed you a 15-second clip or something, I get why you'd be concerned, right?
Yep.
Now, I've been as clear as anyone can possibly be that that is not the path we're taking. And I kind of tore Dave Rubin's head off when Piers Morgan suggested that we make up. I've got no interest in that. And what's hilarious is people tune in to the Young Turks live at 6 o'clock Eastern every day, and they go, wait,
subtle plug.
I don't get it. Where's the right wing turn? They're saying things that are like,
well, there are tons of examples of a right wing turn. You want some examples? Should we go through some examples of the right wing shit that they're doing right now? It's largely Anna that's taking the rightward shift, but Cenk is going right along with her and working with MAGA people in like weird and questionable ways. We can't trust what they're doing. We can't figure it out. Let me just show you one example. These two guys in the corner, it's called The Vanguard, I believe it's a YouTube channel, and they've been covering the TYT shift to the right a lot. A little bit like a dog with a bone, but overall I think that what they're doing is necessary. It's necessary that we expose TYT, Cenk and Anna specifically, for what they're doing. It's necessary that everybody is fully aware that this is a rightward shift. So take that for what you will. But listen to just this one example of them taking a rightward shift on air.
Okay.
I got to say something right now. Bernie's cat, who just
Well, I think Bernie's cat is like a Twitter account.
wrote in on Twitter and accused me of giving Ben Shapiro a pass. How the F was that a pass? How was that a pass? How was it? Delusional. No, most deranged crap on Twitter. Seriously.
So Anna went on Ben Shapiro and basically agreed with him on a bunch of shit. Didn't talk about the stuff that they disagree on, only talked about the things they agree on. And she didn't challenge him on anything basically at all. Now, I suppose I can see reasoning for why somebody would do that, but she gave him a pass. That's what she did. That was her giving him a pass, right? Not challenging him on literally anything at all that he did? What else would you call that?
Seriously, I don't understand. What do you want me to do? What do you
Like literally challenge him on anything is what I would like.
want want me to do? What the hell do I need to do? Tell me right now. Okay, he's lying. I don't know. I don't know what's in his head. I don't know if he's lying or if he's completely shielded from the reality because he's in a different bubble than you. Do you not understand that? Deranged. I don't know what else you want from me.
Yeah, that's just one explosion over her taking a rightward shift and not liking that people are pointing it out, I guess. Or maybe she doesn't even realize she's doing a rightward shift. I don't know. But there are a lot of other examples here.
Jesus Christ. I can't take it anymore. Go ahead, Cenk. Sorry.
Just as we did a story about ostensibly, I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know what they are. Writes in and saying, you just saw our story on Ben Shapiro. You thought that we were too light on Ben Shapiro, that Anna was too light on Ben Shapiro?
I don't think that the story was the thing. I think that it was her going on his show and not challenging him on literally anything at all. That was probably the issue.
You'll get checked into a hospital, man.
I was too easy on him because I didn't flat out say he was lying.
She did literally nothing, like nothing.
I have to get something off my chest. It's been on my mind since yesterday. Can I get it off my chest? You ready? He has no idea what's coming. Okay.
No, I don't.
Yesterday, we did a story about what would happen if Trump gets elected and he further extends tax cuts for the rich, right? Now, it is an injustice that ordinary, hardworking Americans have a higher percentage of their income taxed compared to literal billionaires in the country. Okay, I get that conservatives like to focus on the dollar amount, and the dollar amount is much more when it comes to extremely wealthy people. But obviously, percentage-wise, okay, the higher taxes on low income people or lower income people has more of an impact on their lives and their livelihood. Okay, so I still stand by what we said, but I've gotten to a point where I don't trust government, Cenk. Whether it's a Democrat in charge or a Republican in charge,
She's giving us a reason why we should lower taxes right now, you understand? She gave us an excuse for why we should do that, and now she's advocating for lowering taxes.
I don't trust government. So in that analysis that we did and talked about, one of the tax breaks that came with Trump's tax cuts for the rich, if he extends it, it would lead to $700 billion in lost revenue for the federal government. So what? What does the federal government do with our money?
Are you shitting me? Do I really need to go through the list of things that we get from the federal government?
$700 billion for what? For more aid to other countries in the form of weaponry?
Anti-Ukraine bullshit. This is just a pro-Russia talking point. Our money couldn't possibly be spent better than we're spending it in Ukraine on discrediting a historical adversary, a country that I don't view as an adversary. They view me as an adversary. A country that meddles in our elections regularly and is imperialistically trying to take territory that does not belong to them. And we're doing it without really giving them almost any money. I mean, yeah, we sign like $500 billion aid package. $500 million aid package. You know what's really, like what that is really made up of? I think about half of it is cash. The other half is weapons that are due to be replaced in the military. Every 5 years, we have to replace our weaponry and our missiles and our helmets and everything else every 5 years or so. So instead of putting it in a landfill, we're sending it to Ukraine. That is where that money is going and where it's coming from. But she doesn't put critical thought into this at all, I guess. She's just spreading Russian propaganda, funding Ukraine bad. No, funding Ukraine good, very good.
Is that what it is? Which is basically just redistributing our money from taxpayers to weapons contractors and defense contractors.
Well, actually, it's redistributing our money from the federal government to other people in the country, not just defense contractors, because those defense contractors are made up of, a bunch of individual employees that get paid and put that money back into the economy. So you're giving the money velocity. It's like when people talk about NASA getting money to go to the moon. It's almost like they think that the money is literally physically being placed into a rocket and shipped to the moon. That money isn't going to the moon. It's going back into the US economy. It's going to people who, build rockets and study how study rocket science and stuff. That's who the money's going to. It's not something I expected to hear from Anna. And Cenk is backing her up 100%, completely and totally, and saying stupid shit like, I want to work with Elon Musk to cut the Pentagon and stuff. Trust me, Cenk, they are using you. They are taking you for a fool.
Yeah, so
it bothers me. I can't sit here and talk about like, oh, the federal government needs more revenue when I've seen what they do with our revenue, Cenk.
All right, so that's one of them. She's for lowering taxes, I guess, but that's not even the worst of it. Chuck Todd did something. It was a propaganda piece. I don't remember the name of the propaganda style, but he basically said, "What if this thing were real? What should the consequences be?" And he and his guest have a conversation about the consequences for a group of people for something that didn't happen, that's fictitious, that's not real. Like, if we found out that COVID was leaked from a lab intentionally, what should the consequences be? Why are we talking about that? It wasn't. There is zero evidence for it. None. And Cenk and Anna hear him say, if this happened, if we found this out, what should the consequences be? They hear him say that, and they say, it was leaked from a lab? And spend the rest of this episode talking about how they were lied to because they've just found out from Chuck Todd here that it was leaked from a lab.
Visiting the reporting on the allegations regarding the lab leak and how it might have led to the coronavirus pandemic. This has to do with a new report based on new intelligence by the Energy Department.
No, not new intelligence. There's no new intelligence here. It was an opinion released with low probability, the same level of probability as the US used to go to war with Iraq. Zero, basically. No evidence for it. So this is just like incorrect.
And while the Energy Department has come out with this conclusion, they say that it is a low confidence conclusion, and the intelligence community overall is still divided in regard to.
No, they're not divided. The answer is no, it was not leaked from a lab. Until we get evidence to point us in that direction, there's no reason to think so. And we have zero reason to think it right now.
Where the virus originated from. So here's what we know so far. Some officials briefed on the intelligence said that it was relatively weak, and that the Energy Department's conclusion was made with low confidence, suggesting its level of certainty was not high. While the department shared the information with other agencies, none of them changed their conclusions, officials said. Now, it is important to keep in mind that there is one intelligence agency that tends to agree with the Energy Department here, and that's the FBI. In addition to the Energy Department, the FBI.
You suddenly trust the FBI and the Energy Department and shit? What was all of that about? What does the government do with our money?
Has also concluded with moderate confidence that the virus first emerged accidentally from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese lab that worked on coronaviruses. We'll get to the other agencies in just a moment, and we'll also get to Sullivan's answer to Chuck Todd. But Cenk, initial thoughts.
So there are two major things to look out here for. First of all, did it come from a lab leak? Nearly impossible to know.
The answer is no, until we have reason to believe that it did, which we don't. So no, it didn't.
Damn it, Jim, I'm not a virologist. Having said that, did you hear what Anna just read, you guys? It came out of the city that has the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese lab that worked on coronaviruses.
Yeah, why do you think the lab was there? It was there because there was a species of bat in the region that had coronaviruses that they thought might spill over to humans. These people are just not like thinking critically at all. And they're spreading right-wing propaganda, is my point. And they go through this whole thing where she's like all pissed off that they lied to her and everything.
A lab leak, but they have their own biases. So what do you trust?
Yeah.
Who do you trust? Even the intelligence community in the United States is divided on this issue. And it's not just about the coronavirus pandemic, guys. It's about every single political issue. I don't know who to trust.
Yeah, so
a self-proclaimed journalist doesn't know basic media literacy. Hang on. There's more. There's more. There are a couple of specific ones that I want to see.
Trump is deeply racist and he says deeply racist things, okay? I want to make a distinction between Donald Trump, the person who says and does racist things, and the notion of a fascist. Because look, if we're just going to use fascist toward anyone we dislike, all right, then the word doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, what do you want me to say, Anna? You want me to say wannabe dictator?
Sure, you can say wannabe dictator, but I don't even think he wants to be a dictator.
Of course he does. That's what you do when you lose an election and you go, oh, I got fake electors and I'd like to terminate the Constitution and bring out the tanks and use martial law against American citizens and shoot protesters. I mean, if that's not fascist, then I guess the word just shouldn't exist.
But was he able to do those things?
She's moving the goalpost back.
Trump's
his rhetoric is awful.
Okay, if you don't want to be called fascist, stop saying fascist things. It's not that hard.
Okay.
Not that hard. Oh, here, let me have dinner with Nick Fuentes, who's a Nazi, Kanye, who's a Nazi, and let me say there's good people on the Nazi side. Oh, it could be pro-Confederate guys. Might be guys who are pro-slavery who are good guys. Let me do all of these things. Let me say that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our nation, a Nazi term that is only used in the past by Nazis, and then say, I'm going to ban Muslims, I'm going to do this and this and this to all the other ethnic groups, and then go, oh, I can't believe you called me a fascist. No, he is a fascist. I'm very happy to call him a fascist.
All right.
So the point is that they're going down this wild direction right now that I don't understand. I don't know why. That's one of the biggest problems, the things that Anna has said, and then Cenk backing her up and working with Elon Musk and a bunch of other people and giving Charlie Kirk a gift, basically, by going on his show. That's the issue, primarily.
Like super progressive, populist, left-wing.
Yeah, I agree with Cenk in that video, obviously, the one about the fascism stuff. After that, he has effectively just started working with and agreeing with Anna completely. After that specific video they did together, everything that she says and does, he just kind of works with her on. And it's just sad.
What the hell are these?
Right. So let's go back to Pakman talking to Cenk about whatever here.
Things that are like super progressive, populist, left-wing. What the hell are these guys talking about, right? So I would ask you to not believe people with different incentives. What's really interesting, David, is that when I go on right-wing shows and other comments, tons of comments that I get is, wait a minute, I think right-wing media lied to me. That's right-wingers saying it.
Okay, I don't know why I would care or what that has to do with anything at all. What's your point? Okay, people feel like they've been lied to. Is that like the majority of people, or is it even a small minority? How many people? Like 3, maybe? And is it the people, and are they acknowledging that the show that you're on lied to them? Like, if you go on Charlie Kirk's show, do the people in the comments acknowledge that Charlie Kirk lied to them? Of course not.
They say, I just saw like 15-second clip of you saying something outrageous or something that I totally disagree with that they view to be outrageous, right? But when I see you in a conversation, the left is not at all what I thought it was, right? Because the right-wing shows have historically have framed the left as the most extreme, that everyone on the left thinks that, fill in the blank, that we should release all the prisoners and not, do anything about crime. And
nobody believes that. Nobody.
Whatever thing you could imagine that's the most extreme thing on the left, almost all the right-wing previously believed that was the entirety of the left. Everyone who voted for Biden, Kamala Harris, etc. So when they see us doing this, they're like, oh, wow. And that's ironically now the left-wing shows are doing the same thing as the right-wing shows did. Show 15-second clip and go, you see a slight disagreement there. Oh, that's it. He's a Nazi, he's fascist, etc. So
that's not happening. What are you talking about? These people are literal Nazis and fascists. Are you serious? He's doing the same exact shit that Anna did earlier.
Clip and go, you see a slight disagreement there. Oh, that's it. He's a Nazi, he's fascist, etc.
This is just sad. This is sad. What happened to him? What happened to him? How did he end up here? How did he end up running cover for literal fascists like Anna?
So I understand people who were misled by that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now when you get to the real things that you're talking about, David, so how did this start, and what am I seeing that others aren't seeing potentially? So it started when I started running against Biden in the primary just to try to knock him out. You remember, of course, that. And at the time, you remember a lot of people said, "Oh, Cenk, you're crazy. Joe Biden is young and dynamic and the best Democrat to be."
I don't know anybody who said that he's young and dynamic and whatever. I think people said, "Oh, Cenk, you're crazy. The Constitution literally explicitly says you cannot be the president because you were not born in America." But you know what? You want to take that challenge all the way up to the Supreme Court? I get that. I get it. That's how politics works, and that's honorable, and I'm A-okay with it. You're telling me that you were running against Biden and people were telling you that he is young and spry?
Trump. I mean, I had huge debates over that, including with Destiny and so many others, right? So we were 100% right about that. But
No, you weren't. Biden is not Biden is fine. He isn't he doesn't have one foot in the grave, one on a banana peel. Okay. He's perfectly capable of whatever. I mean, he does interviews all the time. In fact, in the debate, Biden was fine. He had like a 30-second moment where he couldn't think of a word. That was it. The rest of the debate, he was fine.
But what happened is I go on the right wing shows, and and by the way, can I just tell you why did I go on right wing shows to try to knock Biden out of a Democratic primary? Because mainstream media never pays attention to the left. But if you say something on a right wing show, mainstream media goes, "Oh, that's so important. Oh my God, I saw it on a right wing show. It's so important," right?
Okay, I don't know what he's talking about, but mainstream media and all media, honestly, talks about psychotic shit that's happening. Now, most left-wing shows aren't spreading psychotic shit. They're trying to debunk the psychotic shit. Far-right shows are spreading psychotic shit.
Right. And I was able to bounce from there onto mainstream media, not me personally, but that idea. And it did help to knock Biden out, and that did help the Democratic Party. So if
Bullshit.
Kamala had run a better campaign, or if she just finished running a better campaign, we would have been able to beat Trump, etc. But so what I started seeing, though, when I went out,
Kamala ran a fine campaign. It wasn't about the campaign she ran. Trump was just, the factors just weren't there in her favor. That's just what it is, in my opinion.
There is, wait a minute, this right-wing base is not the same base that it was before. And David, by now I figured out why. Okay, because in the old days they only watched Fox News, so you couldn't talk to them. They were Fox News talking point machines, right? I heard from Sean Hannity that corporate tax cuts help the middle class. No, they don't. What are you talking about, right? But now they're getting their news not from angels, but they're getting their news from dozens of different shows. And some of them are anti-war, some of them are still pro-war.
They're all conspiracy shows. They're One America News Network and Newsmax and shit. It's conspiracy all the way down. It's not better now. It's worse now. Anyway, it's just I don't understand how he expects anybody to buy what he's selling here. This is nonsense. They're getting them from a billion sources who are just making things up, whole cloth, just fabricating false information about Biden and stuff, that he's a clone and shit. Why is that better than Fox News? At least Fox News wasn't claiming Biden was a clone. Now I think they are, because they're trying to compete with these nutcases. Things are objectively worse now.
Some are this, some are that. And now what I'm seeing in the right wing is they've begun to open up their mind in a way that we are not familiar with. So when I go and tell the left wing, no, they're beginning to open their mind, they think of the past and they think, oh, hell no. This guy's got to be the biggest sucker on planet Earth and super naive. All the right wingers I've known my whole life.
This shirt, though, that David is wearing. Also, look, I don't know if Cenk watches my stuff. Probably not. But please, bro, I'm begging you to back that head up off of the camera. It's gigantic. We should be able to see your shoulders at least. Look at David. We can see David's shoulders. Your head is too large for the frame, brother. Please.
Never have open minds. And they're this, that, and other thing. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're seeing it wrong. Okay. And so there's a lot of populists in those hills. But because they're right-wing populists.
Populism is bad. I can't believe I'm sitting here saying this. Populism is bad. Hitler was a right-wing populist. Hitler is the end result of populism. That's what happens in a populist system. Populism is a rhetorical style that demonizes the deep state, for example, or elites, a secret cabal of people that are like controlling everything from a position of power and money, which sometimes, there are people at the top that are taking advantage of others and fleecing them for every penny they're worth. But there's no deep state. In addition to that, they also go hard with a black and white, us versus them mentality and blame everything on some specific group of people, like the Jews or the billionaires or whatever. Again, there are problems with how billionaires do things. Like Elon Musk, there needs to be a check on this, without a doubt, absolutely. But populism, the rhetorical style, is bad.
Doesn't mean they agree with us on everything. It doesn't mean that they are going to turn around and be like, oh my God, you're right. We should have full trans rights. No, what that means is right-wing, like populism, the where it intersects is anti-war, anti-corruption. And by the way, even on that stuff, guys, I get it. Yes, Trump is perfectly corrupt and they voted for him anyway. But by the way, so is Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I know that.
No, they're not. They are not corrupt the way that Trump is corrupt. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Neither of them are corrupt like that. I refuse to accept your premise that Joe Biden is as corrupt as Donald Trump, or in the same ways, or anything. He's not.
Breaks a lot of people's hearts, but they've gorged on billions of dollars in corporate cash. Establishment Democrats and establishment Republicans invented corruption, right? And they bathed in corruption. So yeah, of course, Trump is also corrupt, but at least that base has an instinct of being anti-corruption. And so then when I go on the shows, I say, hey guys, for example, Elon Musk, remember he's a donor, he's Trump's largest donor. And they go, well, yeah, that's true. And remember how you should be wary of the donor class. And they're like, yeah, that's true. In the old days, David, they wouldn't have said that's true. They would have been like, no way, our donors are angels and they're the greatest thing on earth. And you're the only donor that's a problem is George Soros and the unions, right? So it's a different dynamic.
It's really not. It's really not a different dynamic. Donald Trump took control of the Republican Party by force. And now the average voters hate the old Republican Party, hate members that are still in Congress that have not bent the knee to Donald Trump. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's not like some big thing like we broke through or whatever. It's not what happened.
Like there's so many things that you asked. I know I'm taking a while, but I do want to address the other things because the idea that you're helping them or legitimizing them is absurd.
Okay. There's sort of like a 3-part thing that I think will build to the most important aspect of what you just said. So first of all, I think you are doing an awesome job.
Remember, he's doing street epistemology right now. Make sure you keep their guard down and make it clear you are on their side. First and foremost, that is the most important thing you can do. The moment they feel attacked, conversation over.
Of what you just said. So first of all, I think you are doing an awesome job at correctly identifying something that's a major problem for the left and that explains a lot of the right's success, which is they aren't doing, at least right now, these toxic purity tests the way that some on the left do. You've identified the right. If you agree with them on 5% and you're kind of sick of the other options, they welcome you, even if you disagree on 95% of stuff. A lot of the opposite of that is happening on the left. I think that's spot on, and I think it's awesome that you've identified that. I do want to talk a little bit about the whole look at how they've changed. And one of the things that during your appearance with Charlie Kirk that got some attention and that you focused in on as well is, look, they're booing Mitch McConnell and they're booing Dick Cheney. That you wouldn't have seen that in the past. I'm skeptical about reading too much into that for the following reason.
Yeah, well, before he gives his reason, let me just say the reason that they're doing that is because that's the old Republican Party that has not fully bent their knee to Donald Trump. Trump did a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, and the voters still support the party as long as the party supports Trump. Cenk is assisting in a right-wing coup, effectively.
Reason. I don't think they have any real idea why they're booing or they're not booing. Or what I mean is the following. Trump and Charlie Kirk right now are benefiting from saying we're different from the establishment, we're different from McConnell and Cheney or whatever. If they do a 180 on that today, at next week's AmFest, Charlie Kirk just leads the crowd in a cheer of Mitch McConnell. We got him back, guys. I don't think there's anything real about that. I think it's just something that they've decided we're going to say to create a distinction, whether there is a difference or not. So I'm worried about reading too much into they booed McConnell, because next week they'll cheer him if someone says to Trump, now we cheer McConnell. You may agree, you may disagree. Let me then do the part 3 of kind of where my mind is on this.
Cenk is a fool if he believes otherwise.
I would argue that whether or not they cheer McConnell or whatever, even if we agree about the problem, the risk of the populist rhetoric as a uniting force is that the solutions are different, even if we agree on the problem. So I'll give you an example.
Right. Populist is not doing what's popular. They're not the same thing. Populism is having an us versus them mentality, demonizing some deep state or whatever, blaming them for every problem that exists, immigrants, Jews, whatever, people like that, and finding a solution to it, such as, for right-wing populism, eliminating them, deporting them, whatever. Left-wing populism, at its absolute extreme, taken to its extreme, looked like what happened in Russia in 1917. They killed their entire aristocratic class. They killed everybody that made over a certain amount of money. And unfortunately, those people are the only ones that knew how to run parts of the economy, like food distribution. They killed the guy that handled food distribution because he was rich in Russia in 1917. And now nobody knows how to do that. And people starve to death as a result. This is exactly why some Nazis stayed in power after the war, because more people would have died if they had removed them. Like a lot more innocent people. So anyway, that's populism is the point.
Some of the people at AmFest, we're worried about the power of the establishment and elites.
You catch what David just did. You and I and others, making sure that we're all on the same team, keeping his guard down.
The recalcitrant centers of power that are corrupt and we're sick of them and all of that. We would identify the problem with almost the exact same language that the crowd at AmFest would. The problem is when you say, okay, left-wing populist, what's your solution? We talk about social democracy, curbing corporate power, using regulations. They will still say the solution is tax cuts for the rich and corporations and all the same stuff. So my instinct is, and tell me—
No, he's not wrong. That's correct. Right-wing populism and left-wing populism have different solutions.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
I mean, the right-wing populist idea to solve problems is to deport immigrants. In Germany, it was to deport the Jews, who were the immigrants. Or in their minds, they were the immigrants. They'd been there for hundreds of years. And when that didn't work, the solution was to murder them.
Cuts for the rich and corporations and all the same stuff. So my instinct is, and tell me if I'm wrong. I want to hear, I'm open to having my mind change. My thought is, even if
we're on the same side. If you're right, I want to be right. This is all part of street epistemology. Keep his guard down.
And tell me if I'm wrong. I want to hear, I'm open to having my mind change. My thought is, even if we really were in agreement about the problem, once we get to solutions, we're not even at all on the same page.
No, I think you are wrong. And it's very understandable, because what you're describing is exactly what's happened throughout history, right?
Okay.
So that's the media and political ecosystem that we all grew up in. So again, that's why I understand people's concern. Like, whoa, wait, no way. All the Republicans I've known my whole life are immovable, right? And all they're ever going to do is corporate tax cuts and tax cuts for the rich. So here's where it's really important to do nuance and understand the new landscape.
Okay, tell me.
So first of all, on Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney, no, they loathe them. You guys are wrong in thinking that it's a trick. I've now talked to—
Well, it's not that it's a trick. It's that they would immediately change their minds if they did what they wanted them to do, or if Trump accepted them, if they bent the knee to Trump, basically. They do not hate Dick Cheney for the reasons that you hate Dick Cheney, which is, he's a warmonger, basically. He was like the architect of the Iraq War and the whole propaganda machine that existed as a result, or to rev up support for the Iraq War.
Hundreds, maybe thousands of MAGA guys. They're not, forget the hosts. When I talk to the individuals, the actual voters, the base, they have no incentive to lie. Have you ever met a MAGA guy?
Yeah. I don't think they're lying. I just think it's been several years of MAGA saying we don't like these guys, so they're on board. But if that changes, they'll just change their minds.
No, they won't.
Oh, are you serious? Are you the most gullible person on planet Earth? You've got to be joking with this. Is this real? You really don't think that they're going to change their minds? Okay.
So let me explain why I think that they won't.
Okay.
So look, in the beginning, it starts exactly as you're saying, David, which is Trump goes, I don't like Mitch McConnell, for whatever crazy reason popped into his head at the time.
Yep.
And his wife is...
It's not for whatever crazy reason. It's because McConnell is not bending his knee to Donald Trump, very specifically.
Well,
and Elaine Chao, I believe, is McConnell's wife, and she was in Trump's administration. And I believe that she quit after January 6th, I think, in protest to Trump, and it was all over from there for McConnell.
For whatever crazy reason popped into his head at the time.
Yep.
And his wife is Coco Chow, and weirdo racist things against Elaine Chao, right?
Yep.
Not that I like Elaine Chao, I think she's terrible establishment figure, but you don't need to go racist on it.
Yeah, the problem isn't that she's Asian.
Yeah, that's definitely not the problem, right? So I know where it started, and so you're not wrong about that. But now they genuinely hate the corruption, and they could explain. So when I say like, oh, Mitch McConnell, they don't, when I get into the longer discussions, AmFest was really tiny, right? When you get into a 3-hour conversation on Patrick Bet-David or Tim Pool show or whatever, they all go, no, I know. He takes $1 billion from corporate donors and serves corporate donors. For the last 10, 20 years, as you know, definitely not 10, longer than that, 15, 20 years, David, as you know, my main thing is get money out of politics and the corruption, bring back democracy. And so whenever I talk to Democrats and I told them, well, Nancy Pelosi taking $1 billion is also corruption, they go, no way, she's an angel and you're a monster.
Who says that? I don't know of a single person who says Nancy Pelosi taking billions of dollars is okay. Is there anybody? At best, they don't say anything at all. Let me rephrase. At the very least, they don't say anything at all. And at most, they agree. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi takes money and that should be dealt with. I've never heard of anybody on the left saying Nancy Pelosi's an angel and her taking billions of dollars from like in a corrupt way is okay. I've never heard that before.
For saying that. And whenever I went to talk to the right wing, they'd say, yeah, Pelosi's terrible, but Mitch McConnell's an angel and you're a monster for saying he isn't. Now when I go to the
that is what they say, yes, on the right. Absolutely, they do say that. No one's saying that on the left. This isn't a left-right, like both sides thing.
Right wing, they go, no, you're totally right. And it's not just because he's opposed to Trump, it's because of the money that he takes from this donor class. Okay. So and Dick Cheney, they genuinely hate the wars. They don't want wars. And that I know that is so fundamentally different than the Republican Party we grew up with.
Boy, this is an embarrassing thing for him to have said before Donald Trump announced that he intends to use military force to take Greenland and Panama, huh? Oops. Kind of stuck your foot in your mouth on that one, didn't you?
That loved wars, right? So now when you go to the Hegseths and the Stefaniks of the world, David, that's where you get into a really interesting dynamic. Now, in the beginning, Trump is not...
Hegseth is a Fox host, I believe, right? A Fox News host, or he's a host on some channel. I'm not sure what point Cenk could possibly be making here.
Trump is not his base. Trump's not going to come out and go, oh my God, guys, I've seen the light, right? And I'm not going to serve Elon Musk or Miriam Adelson or Tim Mellon or any of these guys.
Yeah, Trump is corrupt. Of course. Yes, absolutely.
Or the oil companies. No, what's he doing? He's saying drill, baby, drill, because the oil companies gave him a ton of money. He gave domestic policy to Elon Musk and foreign policy to Miriam Adelson. So why does Stefanik and Hegseth and all those guys, they're hardcore. Mike Wall's a giant neocon.
Yeah.
Why are they in the Trump administration? Because Trump's doing what every politician does, kissing the ass of his donors. And that's how he's going to start. And if his base doesn't challenge him, that's how he's going to end.
Did the base challenge him last time? Like, what evidence do we have this time they'll challenge him?
So that's what I'm getting to. So, David, you're right. In the first term, which now was a long time ago,
Yep.
the base didn't challenge him at all. Okay. If Trump said something, they parroted it and it was over, right?
Yep.
Now, when I go on those shows or I put on X, hey, you know that Rubio, Stefanik, Walz, and Huckabee are neocons and they're going to try to drive you into war. Wall of thousands of comments. You're totally right. We're worried about it. We trust Trump. Let's see how it goes. But we got an eye out for it. Like, they're totally aware that they're neocons and they don't like it. So Hegseth is a different animal because he's partly neocon and partly like meathead, and they like the aggro part of Hegseth and the
I'm not sure what that means exactly.
military part.
Yep.
But they're not going to like the neocon part. And if I'm right about any of this,
Yeah.
war is where it breaks, where the base then says to Trump, "No, brother, we told you anti-war. We didn't go tell you to help."
Okay, well, we've figured that out now. We know what the answer is to that. We know what'll happen, and the answer is they are in favor of trying to take Greenland. They want to take Greenland. So, no need to wonder anymore.
Israel invade Iran. No.
I'm not even sure about this. And I think this is really, I don't know that this is an ideological disagreement. I just don't know that we're on agreement on the facts. I'll give you a counterexample to what you're talking about. Yesterday, Trump does this crazy press conference at Mar-a-Lago. During this press conference, it was like 30 minutes long, he suggested taking Greenland and the Panama Canal.
Oh, beautiful.
With military force, taking Canada with economic force, and unleashing hell on Gaza, or allowing hell to be unleashed. That doesn't sound very anti-war. And when you look on the Truth Socials and everywhere else, it's people defending it, memes about all of the Americas in an American flag. They kind of seem to be just lining up behind whatever he says. I just am
There you go. Obviously.
not seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah, David, that's exactly it. Because I dove in more, I'm seeing something that others aren't, and that's why
Oh, please. Really? You're going to go with that? I'm just seeing more than you.
I understand the skepticism.
But am I wrong about the reaction to yesterday's crazy
You're
tirade?
halfway wrong.
I'm
Yeah,
halfway.
you're
Okay.
Okay, well, lay it on us then. How are we wrong?
Yeah.
All right.
So I know I'm out on a limb here because believing that the
When he says I'm out on a limb, what he means to say is, I know I don't have any proof of what I believe here, but I'm going to say it anyway. That's what that means.
Halfway. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I know I'm out on a limb here because believing that the right wing is going to turn on Trump on specific issues where they have disagreement when they've never done it before. I get that I'm taking a risk by.
No, it's not that they've never disagreed with Trump or whatever. It's like they are literally, like right now, they are not disagreeing with Donald Trump. Like as we speak, they have an opportunity to prove you right, and they are proving you wrong right now.
Saying that they're going to do that, right?
I question whether there is disagreement.
There is. So that's what I'm saying. So, and we're all going to find out with our own eyes and ears if I'm right or wrong, right? And
We've found out. We found out. They agree with Donald Trump on taking Greenland and Panama. There are no more questions to be asked here. We know.
And you've seen me go out ahead of people before, right? Right. Where I said in 2013, I said Bernie could beat Hillary Clinton 3 years before he had that historic run. I said Biden was too old and couldn't possibly win, etc.
Yes. Like one of the YouTube prophets that I cover, like Julie Green, you got some predictions right. Good job, bud. Yep. Congratulations. We know you got something correct. That doesn't validate literally everything else that you ever say.
So now I'm saying, yeah, I see that disagreement. So for example, on what you mentioned, just like I said, Trump in the beginning goes to serve his donors. And so he goes, oh yeah, Miriam, like the Palestinians aren't slaughtered enough. I'll slaughter them even more, right? As long as you keep the money coming, right? And he engages in his fantasies about buying Greenland or invading in Panama, etc. So the first reaction that folks are going to have is we're defending Trump. And especially when the left attacks him, no, he doesn't mean invading Greenland. He means buying Greenland. And he doesn't mean this, he means that. So will you get tons of that, 80% of that? Yes, right? And it's not quite 50-50. But do I see the 20% that is going, no, you're right. We didn't say invade any countries. We said anti-war.
20%. Okay, he says, I'm going out on a limb here. and then makes an absolutely wild, unsubstantiated claim that MAGA is opposing, or let me rephrase, that about 20% of MAGA is opposing the whole Greenland bit. You're just incorrect. Admit when you're wrong. I haven't seen any MAGA opposing the whole Greenland bit. Like none so far, let alone 20%.
So that kernel already exists and we're not even at day one. And when he actually, and what the number one thing they say is, guys, cut it out. He's obviously bluffing, right? And you're hurting his chances of bluffing when you say that he's definitely not going to do it, right? So, if he goes to invade Greenland, he will definitely lose half his base. That is
bullshit. That's just not true, Cenk. It's just not.
Mental, right? And they are actually anti-war. So, but that's not going to happen because he's not going to do that. He's bluffing, right? But when
you say that now, I mean, people have said that about leaders throughout history. It doesn't happen until it happens. It's never going to happen until the moment it happens. Like, I never thought I would ever see a day when there was a power transfer crisis. I never thought I'd ever see a coup on the U.S. government. But here I sit on the other side of it. It never happens until the moment it does.
Look, this is where I think the rubber hits the road. And this is now I'm really out on a limb. Okay.
He's saying, well, now I really don't have any evidence for what I'm about to say. Okay.
I think his base is going to turn on Israel. And so
if they do, it's going to be because they're Nazis. It's because most of his base is made up of Nazis. I would rather, I think probably, God, I don't know, which is worse, having full-blown Nazis that hate Israel and hate Palestine because they're Arabs, or just having these Christian evangelical nutcases who don't really like Israel but support it because they believe it has to exist for them to whatever.
Okay.
I think his base is going to turn on Israel. And so when he goes, yeah, no, I'm going to give Israel another $30 billion and I'm going to help them bomb more countries.
Yeah, and if they do that, if they turn on Israel, then it's because they're Nazis. The right either supports Israel because they believe that they're necessary for the end times or whatever, or they oppose Israel because they're Nazis. Those are the only two types of people on the right, really.
At some point, MAGA's going to go, now that's enough, brother, man. That's enough. We said America first, not Israel first. And so I think they're going to turn on that. And that's the right wing's never turned on Israel. The left wing's never really turned on Israel. No one's allowed to turn on Israel in America. But when you tell the right wing you're not allowed to do something, okay, let's see what happens. So again, we'll see. I get that I'm predicting unprecedented things, but I'm doing that based on what I'm actually seeing on the ground.
Listen,
no, you're not. You're not seeing this shit. That's the problem.
My best assessment in having reviewed all of the evidence and in talking to you here is I think it's clear you're not doing a Dave Rubin. I think your heart's in the right place. I think retrospectively, here's my prediction. I'm not big on predictions. I think in a few years you'll say, I was a little naive with my expectations. And I could be wrong, you could be wrong, we don't know. I think if there's a fault here, we've seen, you're right, it's been a long time. And for 8-9 years, almost 10 years now, since Trump came down the escalator and said Mexicans are rapists, the highest value has been they ultimately do support whatever Trump wants. They don't really care about free speech or freedom or family values or money in politics. That's what we've seen for the last 9.5 years. I hear you saying it's going to change, but we are on the same page that it hasn't been that way, right? I think that part we do agree on.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could list you dozens of examples where they say they're against cancel culture, and then they'll say, well, we should cancel them, right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, look, but to be fair, the Democrats did the same thing. We're against cancel culture, but if you criticize Israel on a college campus, we're going to arrest you and take away your diploma. That sounds like cancel culture to me. right? So, I mean, but I can give you dozens of other examples. Oh, you're protesting oil companies, pipelines. We're going to pass a law in Florida that says we could run you over in our cars, right? I mean, it doesn't get any more cancel culture than murdering someone with your cars because they protested an oil company, right? So, and freedom of speech, they take away freedom of speech all the time. So I totally agree that the last 9.5 years, they have not shown what I am seeing that they're going to do in the future. And I totally agree with you, David, that we're going to come back 2-3 years from now and see how this went and see, hey, was I right that there was?
You're wrong, Cenk. You're wrong. But you know what? Aside from that, aside from the fact that he's wrong, most concerningly to me, Anna Kasparian is wrong. And she's moving in a direction that is like really disturbing to me. Claiming Trump is not a fascist and stuff. Hang on. Or how about this one? Hold on, let me find another.
I've never read a quote that resonated with me more than this one does. So I'm going to read it. Okay. So you don't get red pilled overnight. It's the issues that affect your everyday life first, and then you connect them with people, and then you connect it with a party. That is so true. And that is what I was trying to get across to people. When you're affected day to day by quality of life issues, and all you hear from the Democratic Party is shut up. No, it's not happening. And if it's
I don't know what she's talking about.
happening, it's not that big of a deal. Man, that really does red pill people. It builds resentment toward the party. And I really think the Democrats need to pivot away from that, because they're going to keep losing if they think that that type of treatment of voters, that type of disrespect toward voters is going to get them anywhere.
She's red-pilled, quote unquote. She is red-pilled. Anna Kasparian is on the right. I don't know how to make that any clearer, honestly. And I told you to think about it in the comments. It's just sad, just really sad.